Yes. So what do we have on our plates today? What can we expect here?
So what you're having, first of all, let me just briefly say that years ago, when our family was young, my husband and I have 4 children, and I am one of the lucky ones who has a husband who was very appreciative and loved it when I made good food for him. And part of my love language is to be appreciated. So guess what? We had lots of food, and although we were vegetarian, it wasn't always perhaps the healthiest choice. So by the time Gil was 30 years old, he had been to the emergency room with kidney stones twice. And the first time, of course, we didn't know what it was and thought maybe he was dying. Kidney stones are no fun. And so the doctor told us after that second event that they were calcium stones, and it would probably be better if we cut back on the dairy. And so we decided overnight that we would try the vegan plant-based diet. We had 4 children. Our oldest was 12. We had kids that weren't the happiest with mom and dad because we were going to change the way they ate. However, the benefits that we all received were amazing, and Gil has not had any more bouts of kidney stones. We were strict vegan, didn't use any dairy products for many years. We explained to our children that that was how mom and dad were going to eat, and that was the type of food that we were going to make in our kitchen, but they could choose when they were with friends or church potlucks or otherwise. And so we learned, I scrambled as a mother to know how to make things. One of the cookbooks that I particularly appreciate is Vicki Griffin, The Guilt-Free Gourmet. One of the recipes, the appl'oat delight that you are eating, the baked oatmeal tonight with the shredded apple that I'll be demonstrating, Vicki graciously allowed us to use an adapted portion of her recipe, and I am so grateful to her and to many friends. I mean, it was a collection of recipes. There are still things to this day that we specifically make from those days when we were strict on the non-dairy products.
This is one of my favorite recipe books, too.
I like that very much.
Well-worn. You know, it has stains on it, that you've loved it well in your kitchen.
Yes.
But I believe, do you know, now I think it's available as separate volumes. Is it several smaller volumes available through Adventist ABC Christian bookstores?
I honestly am not certain. Vicki very graciously said that we could use the recipe and share, and that this particular book is no longer in print.
Yeah.
So there probably are other options for that.
I've seen some smaller ones. I'd have to check to make sure they're still there this
Best
year.
of Silver Hills is another one, and I think that has been renamed also. But that and collections, anybody can choose to eat plant-based, and the benefits are certainly there.
Very good. So are all of our recipes from here tonight?
No, the scrambled tofu is actually a combination of what we just throw together and enjoy. So that's kind of our family recipe, and then the baked oatmeal.
Very nice. And that oatmeal is a big recipe. If you have a lot of people coming for breakfast, everybody likes it. It's very creamy.
Yes, back in the day when our kids were in the youth group at PMC, we would take a large restaurant-sized pan of that, and that was part of our welcome to the kids who attended, the teens who were attending the Sabbath school class. We would serve them a nice breakfast.
And they were happy to get it. We used it for years during our blood draws for the CHIP program. When people had fasted and they finally got their blood draw, they were rewarded with lovely apple. And we added the blueberries as well, just like you do.
Yes. Some of us in our family aren't real fond of the raisins. You could use raisins or craisins. Any type of fruit could be added to this, of course. And if we weren't baking it in such a large quantity as we did tonight, you would probably have it more crispy than it is tonight. So I hope you enjoy it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And are you ready to show how you did the magic?
I am ready to attempt that.
All right.
I would be much more comfortable at one of your tables with
Yes.
you, but here we are.
Having said that, let me give a little background on Colleen. So Colleen has been blessing people with healthy ideas for decades. She got me started with my very first juicer. And what a difference that has made. I don't know if you remember.
I
ended
didn't
up
remember.
coming back. She had one that was hard to buy anywhere else. It was a very serious juicer. And I ended up going back, my husband and I, to buy 2 more to give to relatives who really needed to deal with diabetes. And
Was that the Norwalk or was that the Green Power?
it was the Green Power.
Okay.
Just like I'd researched Norwalk, but Green Power was a modern version.
Yes, the Green Power was much more user-friendly.
Yes. All right, so Colleen has had decades of helping people to feel better through all kinds of natural remedies, including food. So this evening she's going to demonstrate for us. First of all, looks like the apple blueberry oat delight.
So the recipe that you have is actually for a much smaller pan than our restaurant size. Okay. I'm going to spray this baking dish, and then I'm simply going to layer. I found as many options in the organic realm that I could. I'm using, what we used today was the organic sprouted oats.
This looks like the size of a Costco bag.
It is from Costco, yes.
I think I just saw this very bag there a couple days ago.
For years,
Do you like a spoon?
I'll just take one of these recipes, please.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think yours is over here if you want the waterproof one.
Yes, thank you. For years, we did a co-op through Country Life, and now these days I'm doing a little more with all the organic options from Costco. So with the apple blueberry delight, I'm going to sprinkle, I'm just layering, so I'm sprinkling my organic sprouted oats on the bottom of a sprayed pan. I'm going to use some.
Since we don't have a camera, I'll be your camera.
Okay.
Just our bottom layer. That's a lovely thing. There's so little chopping or prep. You just pour it in and bake it for the most part.
I'm going to put on some organic blueberries.
That really changes up this recipe. That wasn't in the original recipe, and it is a nice upgrade.
And with this, you are welcome to use your choice of milk. I found an organic, unsweetened almond vanilla milk, but any choice of milk that you would like. And when we took this for the teens, we used a sweetened milk and probably a sweetened coconut, so it's not as sweet tonight. So feel free to doctor it to what works for you.
I do the same thing for my first graders. I just use a sweetened vanilla, non-dairy milk, whatever kind looks good in the store that week. And my first graders go crazy. They'll eat bowls of it. We learn to do some healthy cooking in my classroom as well.
We will often, back in the day, I should say, we've used this as an evening meal also. It doesn't have to just be breakfast. So I'm sprinkling on half of the coconut, the shredded coconut. And then we're going to, I brought my food processor, which makes quick work of the apples. And I did not peel. These are, again, organic apples, and I did not peel them. I just washed them. We've done completely raw food presentations as well, and a food processor is a necessity.
Yes, a good one. I've burned out one that was wimpy on the very first try in my classroom as we were grinding dates into a nice crust.
Yep.
So you need one with a little A little bit of horsepower there. All right.
This is pretty straightforward if anyone has questions.
And the secret to this really is, I think, the blueberries, the coconut, and the apple just take it to a whole nother level from oatmeal. Is there anyone that has a specific question? Not yet. It all sounds good so far. Yeah, all right. I can take care of that for you.
Simply slicing and coring the apple.
Put this over here, and we'll make it where you can see. Whoops. I can juggle 3 things at a time, but I've exceeded my limit. All right. Well, Gil and Colleen have done all kinds of health-related things, and I remember one of the first times I was at their place doing the juicing, and Gil had come in from a run. Gil, I want to see if you remember this. He had come in from a fairly long distance run, and I was impressed just the fact that he had run so far. I don't remember the distance anymore. And then when he told, I thought I wouldn't have this much energy on day 3 of a water fast, my jaw was on the floor, because this was decades ago, and this was all new to me. But they have been doing this for a very long time. Do you have any memory of that, Gil? Not that specific incident. All right, so we have apples that have been so nicely kind of French fried here in the...
So this is, I've just shredded it like you would a coleslaw.
Yes.
And I'm going to...
And it's all going to cook down, so that gets it to spread out really evenly over, because you want a little bit of it in every bite. And that's one of the things when you serve it, you want a nice big serving utensil where people dig down through the layers and get a little bit of everything in their scoop. But that's quite a bit of apple. If you look at how much oatmeal and how much of everything else, the apple's about half. That's really one of the secrets.
So we're going to add another layer now of the same thing.
Okay.
Making a mess here.
That's all right.
Pecans.
Yeah, pecans are going on now.
I should have actually put those on before the before the apple. Okay. Now another cup of oats and coconut, and that will pretty well,
So
and
it's
some blueberries on top.
It's a little bit like a breakfast lasagna, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now goes the second cup of oatmeal.
Again, your choice of oats, whatever, rolled or quick, whatever is
If
your
you've
choice.
always used quick oats like I grew up with and you're not familiar with cooking with the rolled, if there's anyone in your family that has their reason for not liking oatmeal is that it's a little bit like wallpaper paste. Have you heard that before? Because I have. There's a way to remedy that. Part of it is by using rolled oats, and the other is by not overcooking at all. In fact, while staying in Israel, I learned from a seasoned cook there, you put the pot on your boil, you put the rolled oats in the water, and turn the burner off immediately. Let it sit there a few minutes, just in the warm water. And it takes it a little while to absorb. You have to give it at least 20 minutes. But it will be the most beautiful, fluffy oatmeal you've ever seen. Look at this. It looks a little bit like a sundae, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Just beautiful. I'm going to come out here where you can see it.
And although there are directions, just layering it is the main idea.
Yeah. Looks good enough to eat. Why don't you have a bite? In fact, you have it right in front of you. All right.
So as I was thinking of the plans and what we would talk about this evening, I realize it's been 35 years since that event when we first made the decision to include more plant-based whole foods in our diet.
And then we don't put any water on this. That's what gives it the creaminess, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. And then salt. So I poured in my milk, and I've got a little bit of extra milk here. Calls for 3 cups. And let's see, half a teaspoon of salt. I'm using real earth salt.
And tell me why. Why have you chosen real earth salt?
That's what I've used for years. The Himalayan pink salt is also wonderful.
Does it have something that regular Morton iodized salt doesn't?
Yeah, I believe that it is much better for us.
Has a lot of the trace minerals that our bodies need, doesn't it?
Here we go. Okay, and I'm just going to whiz this with my vanilla, and that will be it. And then we would put this in the refrigerator. This has been actually with the liquid sitting today. It soaks. You can soak it overnight. Did that say? Yeah. 1 tablespoon of vanilla, and this is pure vanilla. And then let it soak overnight. It's all ready. Pop it in the oven in the morning, 350, for about 45 minutes.
And by the time you're ready, so is it?
Yes.
Okay, now we're going to drench it in that lovely liquid.
And this is just going to make a little bit of noise here. And
oh, such a nice, quiet Vitamix.
This is my second Vitamix. The first one was done. And then just pour this. I'm not going to pour this over the top because my car has some of this liquid in. And so I'm going to leave this, but this would be poured, and so it would pretty much come up to liquefy all of the ingredients.
In fact, some people just pour it until you see it just about up even to the top, and then you know it's good. My students, 6-year-old first graders, love to help layer this recipe. They're fully capable of making this.
Yes, my grandson Levi loves to work in the kitchen with me. If there are carrots to peel, he'll be the one peeling the carrots. So there are definitely things on this recipe that Levi can help me with, and Olivia, if she's not in school, also. Okay, now the scrambled tofu. We are trying, make sure that what you're using is a good, sturdy, healthy pan. What I'm using are the new hex-clad pans, newer to me anyway.
And where are they available?
Some olive oil. I happened upon Costco when they had a demonstration there. You can order them online. We had done some research on them, and we were told that they were really good pans, and so we did some research. And when they had the display at Costco, I said, "Oh, I'll take a set of those." The salesman said, "I don't even have to sell you on it." I said, "No."
And what's the name again?
Hex-clad.
Hex-clad. All right. Good to know.
Okay, when this gets hot, I am using organic extra firm tofu. This comes in a 4-pack at Costco, any type of organic extra firm. I prefer a water packed tofu. I've already poured the water off. Versus the Mori New tofu, it's a smaller block, and that is better, in my opinion at least, for creamy desserts. Would you agree with that, Beth?
Definitely. Anything creamy, even smoothies and that kind of thing. But
yes.
But anything you want a little texture to, this crumbles beautifully. So people quite often ask, some of you probably eat tofu regularly, and some say, where can you buy that? So it's available in most grocery stores nowadays, in the produce department. It's refrigerated. So she was referring to the water packed, which is always refrigerated. The other Maury knew that she's referring to is aseptically packaged, meaning that it doesn't need to be refrigerated. It's shelf stable, and it's usually available more through specialty shops, maybe Fresh Thyme and Whole Foods and Apple Valley, some of those.
You
So-
could do this in a different way. I usually just crumble it in my hands. You could use a potato masher or however you decided to use it.
But you never get it quite so nice and crumbly as when you get your hands in there.
Yeah. But now I have nothing for my hands.
Oh, let's get you something. Rhonda, is it possible to get a couple of paper towels sent up?
So I have my tofu crumbled up. If I were going to make a stir fry, I would use this same type of tofu, but I would cut it in cubes.
So it looked to me like you had already taken this out and drained the liquid off.
Yes.
And then did you rinse it with some clear water probably?
Yes,
Your
you can.
typical practice.
Yes.
Yeah, so you just want to, it as a block before you get started.
I'm pretty fond of onion, and so I use a large onion. I'm dicing it. Good knives are another kitchen necessity for food prep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes. And that's the secret to good vegan cooking as well, or good whole food-based cooking, is knowing how to get flavor in healthy ways. And the number one is probably onion, and maybe the number two is garlic, huh?
Yes, so I have a granddaughter who, if she sees bits of onion in any food, which that's usually my first thing I start with, she's not going to eat it. So on one of the presentations that Pastor sent me, he spoke, or the presenter talked about making onion milk. Do you all remember that class? If I understood it correctly, she put the onion in the Vitamix or in a high-powered mixer and made it liquid. And I thought, maybe I could get Kate on that one. Maybe she would learn to be okay with the flavor if she didn't see the item. So we find all sorts of ways to present. I'm fond of red bell pepper. I like the flavor of that, so I have cut the pepper and I've got it cleaned out. I'm going to dice this as well.
And that's something that most kids can be sold on. The red bell they'll go for, generally speaking.
Extra virgin cold pressed olive oil is what I'm using to saute this in. This makes wonderful, we served it just plain on your plate this evening. It makes
there's
wonderful
something on
breakfast burritos. Is it burning?
Something on the burner.
Yeah, we tried, we're
That-
kind of makeshift.
That smoke is not from her delicious food. There's something on the burner.
We cleaned it a little bit. But you see the consistency as you're eating it. Season it to taste. I season mine. Got my seasonings here in the front.
Okay, let's take a look at those. You know, the most common thing I hear about tofu, if someone doesn't like it, is, I can't stand tofu. It has no flavor. And they're right. That's the beauty of tofu. You can make it sweet. You can make it savory. You can make it any kind of savory you want. But it's like potatoes. You know how potatoes can absorb a lot of salt and not tell on you? That's really what tofu does. So she has here McKay's chicken seasoning, which is a vegetarian-based seasoning mix, turmeric, parsley, which makes it look better more than anything, basil, give it a little Mediterranean taste, and liquid aminos to add a little saltiness. And I see you've got garlic.
I have garlic, and you can use fresh. I took the easy route and bought minced in the jar for this evening.
It's nice to have that around because we all have days we need to go to the jar.
So I'm just sauteing my onion, adding some garlic. Again, it's to taste, to your preference.
If people don't enjoy the raw taste of onion or garlic, if you really saute it until it's pretty golden brown, takes a lot of that raw taste out and begins to let the sweetness show through. Notice how she put the garlic in just a little bit after the onion, which can take a little longer browning time.
And I'm not used to this hot plate, so this is a gimme.
You're doing great, and they're looking beautiful. They're shiny and golden already.
Again, any color of pepper that is your preference. My daughter likes to use green pepper. We used a variety of colors for yours this evening. What's on your plate? A rainbow of colors.
And there, I just bought a whole rainbow of peppers today, but they were in the plant form. My first graders will be planting them this week at school. And it's that time of year. If you're going to put something out, even in a container, you can do 1 or 2 or 3 pepper plants and have what you need for these yummy dishes all summer. Okay.
Are we doing okay on time?
Yes, I think so.
I'm going to go ahead and stir in my pepper, diced bell pepper. Again, breakfast burritos, tacos. There's so many different ways you can use this scrambled tofu.
A breakfast burrito, a flour tortilla with this is just wonderful. Add a little salsa, and you've gone south of the border, but much healthier. I'm glad to know about the 4-pack from Costco. That's not something that I've picked up. Where do they have it? Is it in the cooler, the walk-in cooler?
No, not in the walk-in cooler. It's in one of the aisles where, like, there's the cheeses, and I don't remember exactly what's in that aisle with it, but they're maybe the 3rd aisle in that center section.
Okay.
I walked out of Costco with 5 4-packs. There are 4 of these in each pack. And
so
the
20
gentleman,
packs.
you know how Costco works. You have to show them your receipt when you get to the door. And the gentleman behind me said, "Are you going to cook all that yourself?" And I said, "Well, I'm kind of doing this for a project at our church." He said, "Oh, okay." I've never bought that much tofu at one time, although you can freeze tofu.
And that does a whole nother thing, doesn't it?
Yes, that makes it changes the texture.
So if you want it to stay cubed and just a little chewy for like an Asian dish, then if you freeze it first and then use it, it gives it a little more stick-to-itiveness.
Okay, to save time, I am going to go ahead and put this in. This isn't as done as I would normally do it. I usually like it a little darker than that, but I know Pastor has some words for you tonight, so I'll be happy to sit down and let him take over. So I'm putting the amount that we have for you this evening for the recipe. This is 2 blocks of 2 16-ounce blocks of tofu. And then I do generous tablespoons.
Yes.
I don't always measure. We had to sit down and talk about this. Normally I do, but tofu is one that I'm...
Yeah, the more the better, in my opinion.
So for each block of tofu, I think I put that down.
It's
For
right here.
each package,
Recipe, right here.
I do 1 tablespoon. Yep.
So this is the 2-block recipe, and you can see that it needs a very large skillet
Yeah.
to prepare.
This is the 12-inch, I believe.
Okay.
A tablespoon of parsley. Any seasoning that you prefer. This just happens to be.
Dried parsley is nice. It adds the green without tasting quite so green as some things do.
Now the teaspoon of turmeric is what is going to give it the color, as well as some benefits nutritionally.
And a little bit of southwestern flavor.
A teaspoon of that, yeah. If you have a bent for certain, okay, and the basil is a teaspoon, did I say? Okay.
All right, a little bit of Bragg's.
and or salt to your taste.
So Bragg's liquid aminos is an alternative that some people use to soy sauce. It's not fermented, I don't believe, and has a little bit of a lower sodium content. You do have to be careful to compare apples to apples because the serving size is much smaller that they use for their sodium level than most other Asian products.
And then I'm just stirring in those seasonings that we added, and I would normally let this cook down so that it gets to the consistency more of a scrambled egg type of dish.
In my opinion, it's so much better than scrambled eggs, and I like scrambled eggs, but I prefer to eat plant-based, and it just has a lot more flavor. When do you put all that stuff in your scrambled eggs? The seasonings really give it a nice, rich flavor.
Any questions on the scrambled tofu?
How many of you make scrambled tofu your own way at home? Okay, we've got, so we're preaching to the choir here,
That's
people
right.
who already like this.
We were trying to provide something that would be well-rounded and something that we could transport and do here for you this evening. So,
Well, it's always a crowd pleaser. When you produce tofu that has a lot of flavor, people are amazed because many people have tried it without much and they were sadly disappointed. We need to change their understanding of how yummy it can be.
it's all dependent on the seasoning.
Yes.
Okay.
It is. Yes. So it has a fair bit of fiber. Let's see. Let's look at a package here. So I'm looking for fiber. A gram of fiber. Says 4.5 servings, so about a fifth of this. So about 5 grams for this whole thing. So not super high, but it's got some fiber from the beans in there, which of course animal products typically do not have any. Yeah, I'm looking to see organic soybeans. Yep.
And yeah, yes.
Could you talk about the difference between different kinds of tofu and tempeh?
Okay, the question is to speak to different types of tofu and also to compare them with tempeh.
Some are fermented. The tempeh, I believe, is a fermented soy. There's much literature and much discussion on the different types of tofu and soy products. The less refined, the better, in general. This, again, is a substance that you are adding things to get it flavored. There are some products that come already seasoned. There's a Seitan, I believe. There are Seitan, is that the pronunciation?
I believe.
There are several different types. This is the product that I use the most. The extra firm organic tofu is my preference for the way I cook with it.
So it follows the rule of as simply processed, as close to nature as we can find the products. All right. Would you join me in thanking our lovely host and also our chef this evening?
Thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate my helpers, my husband, again, and the girls for helping me. It's not possible to do alone. So thank you for having us.